His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrata Vichara Shukla Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhatta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kumara Kum Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mandavar Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhatta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Shri Guru. All glories to Guru. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhattacharya Shri Deva Vikasa Swami. Can you turn this down some? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 6. We're reading a series of verses starting from text 19 all the way to 25. Okay, so this is verse 19. Medram Tasya Vinirbinam Shwa Dishnam Kaha Upavishat Retasa
Retasa
Amshina
Amshina
Yena
Yena
Asau
Asau
Anandam
Anandam
Pratipadyate
Pratipadyate
Medrum Tasha Vinirbhinam
Mitram Tasya Vinirvinam
Swadishnam Ka Upavishat
Swadhishnam Kaupavishat
Retat Samshina Yena Shav
Samshina Yinasa
Anandam Pratipadyate
Anandam Pratipadyate
Medrum Tasha Vinirbhinam
Mitram Tasya Vinirvinam
Swadishnam Ka Upavishat
Swadhishnam Kaupavishat
Reta Samshina Yena Shav
Samshina Yinasa
Anandam Pratipadyate
Anandam Pratipadyate
Medrum Tasha Vinirbhinam
Mitram Tasya Vinirvinam
Swadishnam Ka Upavishat
Swadhishnam Kaupavishat
Reta Samshina Yena Shav
Samshina Yinasa
Anandam Pratipadyate.
Anandam Pratipadyate
Okay, please repeat.
Midram tasya vinirpinam
Mitram Tasya Vinirvinam
swadishnyam ka upavishat
Swadhishnam Kaupavishat
ritasam shena yenasa
Samshina Yinasa
anandam pratipadyate
Anandam Pratipadyate.
Medram tasya vinirpinam
Medram Tasha Vinirbhinam
Swadhishnam ka upavishat
Swadishnam Ka Upavishat
Retasam shena yenasa
Reta Samshina Yena Shav
Anandam pratipadyate
Anandam Pratipadyate.
Medram tasya vinirpinam
Medram Tasha Vinirbhinam
Swadhishnam
Swadishnam
kaupavishat
Ka Upavishat
Reta samshena
Reta Samshina
yena
Yena Shav
Anandam
Anandam
pratipadyate
Pratipadyate. Medram Tasha Vinirbhinam Swadishnam Ka Upavishat Reta Samshina Yena Shav Anandam Pratipadyate. Okay, word for word translation. Medrum,
Medram
genitals.
Genitals
Tasya,
Tasya
of the gigantic form.
of the gigantic form
Vinirbhinam,
Vinirvinam
being separated.
being separated
Swadishnyam,
Swadhishnam
own position.
own position
Kaha,
Hana
Brahma, the original living creature.
Original living creature
Upavishat,
Upavishat
entered.
Entered
Retasa Amshina,
Retasa Amshena
with the part of the semen.
with a part of semen
Yena,
Yena
by which.
by which
Ashau,
So
the living entity.
Living
Anandam,
Anandam
sex pleasure.
Sex pleasure
Pratipadyate,
Pratipadyate
experiences.
Experiences
Translation and purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai
Translation. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. So I'll just read the, I'll just do the Sanskrit and translation for the next couple of verses, because this one's not purple. Okay. Gudam pumso vinirvinam mitro lokeshat avishat payunam shinayena shao vishargam pratipadyate. The evacuating channel separately became manifest, and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs of evacuation. Thus, the living entities are able to pass stool and urine. Hastav Ashavinirvinav Indraswar Patir Avishat Vartayam Shina Purusho Yaya Vritim Pratipadyate. Thereafter, when the hand of the gigantic form separately became manifest, Indra, the ruler of the heavenly planets, entered into them. And thus, the living entity is able to transact business for his livelihood. Padavashavinir Binao Lokesho Vishnu Avishat
katya swam shina purusho yaya prapyam prapadyate. Thereafter, the legs of the gigantic form separately became manifest, and the demigod named Vishnu, not the personality of Godhead, entered with partial movement. This helps the living entity move to his destination. Buddhim chashavinirvinam bhagisho dishnam avishat bodhinam shina bodhavyam pratipatir yato bhavit. When the intelligence of the gigantic form separately became manifest, Brahma, the Lord of the Vedas, entered into it with the partial power of understanding, and thus an object of understanding is experienced by the living entities. Hridayam chasha nirbhinam chandrama dishnam avishat mana shamshina yena shao vikriyam pratipadyate. After that, the heart of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and to it entered the moon demigod with partial mental activity. Thus, the living entity can conduct his mental speculations. So this is the last series of verses I'm going to read. Atmanam chasha nirbhinam abhimano vishatpadam karmanam shinayena shao kartavyam pratipadyate. Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered Rudra, the controller of false ego, with his own partial entity transacts his objective actions. Purpose. The false ego of materialistic identity is controlled by the demigod Rudra, an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Rudra is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord who controls the mode of ignorance within material nature. The activities of the false ego are based on the objective of the body and mind. Most persons conducted by the false ego are controlled by Lord Shiva. When one reaches a finer version of ignorance, he falsely thinks of himself as the Supreme Lord. That egotistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last snare of the illusory energy which controls the entire material world. Om Agyana Timirandasha Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Litam Yena Tashma Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Saharagunapitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Shri Shakam Vitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivikasa Swamiti Namane. Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bacharane Nirvishisa Srinivadi Pashachatasatani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasi Gaura Bhattavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Artalinkaya Navase Namo Antavihamane Namaha Punyaya Lokaya Mushmai Purivashase Pravitaya Nivitaya Pichita Vikarmane Namo Dhammavi Pakaya Michivedigadaya. Okay, so the first of these series of verses, Medram Taishavinir Binam Swadishnam Ka Upavishat Reta Samsina Yinashav Anandam Pratipadite. When the generals of the gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. So, these series of verses is pretty much understanding how we're being controlled by the demigods, who are controllers of the material nature. So if you look back into previous verses, the demigods prayed for service, and Krishna is empowering the demigods to perform these certain functions. We don't even realize that even by the blinking of our eyelids is being controlled by a demigod. So everything we do is in this jurisdiction of material nature is controlled by some demigod. And these series of verses just elucidate that. So it's funny because, the demigods prayed for this, and Krishna reciprocated with them. Krishna is Sarva Kamada. He fulfills the desires, especially of his devotees, but of all living entities. So after the demigods prayed for service, this is an elucidation of Krishna actually fulfilling their desires. So we should be careful with our desires. And if you go back a little bit to 3:6:10, and you go to in the purport, I think it's the last sentence. Go up. Yeah. So, the demigods control the elements and ingredients of universal affairs, prayed to the Lord for guidance, and thus he manifested his gigantic form as he did at the request of Arjuna. So this form that is being experienced, or that's being portrayed, is actually the universal form, a gigantic universal form that was also displayed to Arjuna. So this form is, if anybody has ever read, the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when I first read it, it was kind of scary, actually. It's like millions of mouths, fire coming out, people running into it. It's very vivid. And Krishna, he shows this form to, assert his supremacy. So we should understand that we should see the world as Krishna sees the world. Actually, this is what it means to be Krishna conscious. To be Krishna conscious means to see the world as Krishna sees it. Actually, there's a verse that says this. It's 4:29-26. Can you go to that? I'm going to jump around to some verses. Sorry, Mitravon. It's 4:29-69. Yes, you go there, yeah. Yeah, so Krishna consciousness means constantly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in such a mental state that the devotee can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. Okay, so this is very important. Krishna consciousness means seeing the world as Krishna sees the world. And how does Krishna see the world? Ultimately, he sees this material world, as a place to reformed conditioned souls. And we're very small, actually. It's very easy to think we're the center of the universe. But from Krishna's view, we're very, very small. And Krishna consciousness means to see the world as Krishna sees it. And so when this elucidation of these verses I just went through is showing how everything we're doing is being controlled by a demigod. And this is how Krishna is seeing it. He's seeing how the living entities, by every step they make, we're being controlled. He doesn't necessarily want us to be controlled, but he does it for our own rectification. So we have to see the world as Krishna sees the world. And actually, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually describes this universal form. Not only in the 11th chapter, but he also does it in the 15th chapter with the banyan tree. Ordva mula madashakam ashvatam prayuravyam chadamsi yasha parnani yastam veda saveda vid. Chordvam prasitash. So that first verse, Ordvam prasitash shaka. So the roots are upward and the branches are downward. Okay. And he describes this tree to make us understand, our situation. In Karmani Bandini Manusha Loke, we're tied to this banyan tree by the results of our karma, actually. So every action we perform ties us more and more. Karmani Bandini Manusha Loke. It ties us to this banyan tree. And as Krishna is describing it, this universal form, we're being tied to our activities, and the demigods, once we start performing, so we have karma, our karma, and vikarma. Once we perform activities in the mode of karma, then the demigods were under their jurisdiction. Okay, but once we actually start performing akarma, activities directed for Krishna consciousness, pure devotional service, we actually come above the jurisdiction of the demigods. And this is what Krishna wants. He wants us to see his devotees come above, these different manifestations of the demigods' power. So that's just a little background before I get into the verses. But we should, this banyan tree, if you actually think about it, the way Krishna describes it is very intricate. It's very intricate how the roots is upward, branches downward. Also, some roots are upward. The leaves are the Vedic hymns. And narupa mashe hatato balapyate nato nachadina shasham pradisha asvatamino suvrunam asanga shashrina jadina chitva. So we can't see the materialists cannot narupa. We cannot see the real form of the show. Everything's a perverted reflection. Okay, you have this universal form, but in the spiritual world, Krishna has a form. This universal form was manifested so the demigods perform their particular duties. But in the spiritual world, all duties are performed strictly for the service of pleasing Krishna. But materialists can't see this real form of the tree. But asanga shrastrena jadina chitva, we have to, with the strong weapon of detachment, we have to break away from this tree. Dradina, determination. We have to be determined to get out of this material engagement. And like I said, we have to see the material world like as Krishna sees the material world. If we see it as a place of enjoyment, we can't actually come to a level of Krishna consciousness. We have to see it as a place of misery, and we're entrapped. If anybody's been to India, if you ever seen a banyan tree, it's really crazy how you can't really tell which one is a root because some of the roots are going up, and then you have branches downward. And when you see it, you realize, oh wow. I see. You realize why Krishna used this example, because this tree is very complex. It's very hard to understand where it begins, where it ends. But what's that verse? Yata praviti prasita parani. So the goal of the Vedas is to understand Vishnu, Krishna. He's the source of this tree. And like I said, with the weapon of attachment and knowledge. So we have the, Asanga Shastrina, weapon of attachment, and then we have the Jnana Shastrina, with the weapon of knowledge. So detachment doesn't actually come without the weapon of knowledge. So the knowledge, by knowledge itself, you can become detached. Not that you artificially become detached. You have to employ the knowledge along with it. So yeah, like I said, these series of verses is just pretty much understanding how the demigods are controlling every little step we do. Everything we're doing is being controlled, but once we surrender to Krishna, we become above this jurisdiction. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but getting to one of these verses, the first one, when the generals of the gigantic form separately became manifest in Prajapati, the original living creature, entered them with his partial semen, thus living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. It's interesting because in the translation, and the word for word, anandam is translated as sex pleasure. But ananda, it's interesting Prabhupada does that. Ananda is not sex pleasure. Ananda, the real bliss is with Krishna consciousness. So this sex pleasure is ultimately why we're in the material world, actually. All living entities are bound, Hridaya Granthi. We're bound in the heart, Hridaya Granthi, by this sex desire between man and woman. So, actually, and you go to this verse, Mitravan, 7:9-45. Everybody, this is a very famous verse. You can go down. You go down to the translation. So, sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grihamedi, so-called grihastas who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of the brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching, are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. So there's an itching problem. The material world is, we all have this itching problem, this desire to itch, this sex urge, and it's interesting because, all the four ashrams are actually conducted just to purify this one itching problem. The brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, all of these ashrams are actually meant to purify this itching sensation. The more you itch, the more entangled you become. So that's why Varnashram Dharma is in place, to control this. But unfortunately for the younger generation, society is encouraging them to itch more and more. Go itch. I remember I was and I was maybe in high school, no, it was middle school, and they were giving out condoms in my sex ed class. You can itch, but itch in a safe way. This is what modern society is teaching the youth. And that's why you have, this I don't know why I just blanked. What's the unwanted population? I don't know why I just blanked. Varnasankara, yes, Varnasankara. You have all this Varnasankara because they're trying to satisfy this itching sensation without understanding the consequences of it. That's why it's up to us, members of the Christian conscious movement, to educate the masses. Nobody knows what the purpose of life is. Nobody understands why this itching problem even exists, nor how to relieve it. Okay, it says in this verse, we relieve it by tolerating it. And those who are dear, who can tolerate it, can actually come to a level of real happiness. You know, the more we enjoy, the more we suffer. It's the laws of nature. Just like the honeybee is described that when the honeybee goes for the nectar, you know, he gets attacked by the other bees. He cannot enjoy that nectar exclusively. He has to face the attacks of other materialists. Similarly, when we try to enjoy this material world, we will be faced with difficulties. It's when we were in India, I kind of saw this. It was a pack of dogs. They were just barking, and you saw a female dog, and then the male dog, his face is ripped up, and then he was trying to, you know, have sex with the female dog in the middle of the street, and then the female dog starts biting at the male dog, and the male dog starts fighting with the other dogs. It was just chaotic. It was just really ridiculous. It was crazy. But that's symptomatic of what we're going through, you know. We're getting kicked in the face. The more we try to enjoy, the more we're getting bit by other materialists in our own minds, actually. So, like I said, our duty actually is to tailor education to the masses of how to curb this itching sensation. Okay, part of being Christian consciousness means to be revolutionary, and you can't be revolutionary until you first revolutionize your own consciousness. You know, these ideas that Prabhupada is giving us is all revolutionary, actually. You know, it's very the concept that all problems of life can be solved by surrendering to Krishna is a revolutionary idea that you will not find in schools, colleges, anywhere, the churches. You will not find this idea anywhere. You know, that you can solve the problems of life simply by surrendering to Krishna. This is a revolutionary idea. But we can't propagate this if we ourselves don't have faith in it, or if we don't revolutionize our own consciousness. So we start by revolutionizing our own consciousness by studying Prabhupada's books and seeing the world as Krishna sees the world. Okay? When we see the world as a meant for facilitating Krishna consciousness, then things become easier for us, actually. When we see the world as a place of our enjoyment, things become difficult. It's very simple, but in practice, it's hard to see that sometimes. So this Vedic education gives a scientific understanding of how everything is working. You know, you can present all this in the schools and colleges. You know, this is scientific. This is not some dogmatic approach to religion. This is not a religion, actually. You know, and I remember it was a court case, and they were trying to say Christian consciousness is not religion. No, it is a bona fide religion. Prabhupada propagated that just so we can establish ourselves within the world. But actually, this is not a religion. Okay, this is who you are. I tell people that all the time. This is not a religion. Actually, this is who you are. Okay, you're not Christian. You're not Muslim. You are Krishna conscious, and you need to see the world like that. So this Vedic understanding is meant to tailor this, and it's up to us as revolutionaries to establish the system of our understanding. It's funny because, you know, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, even without the Vedic concept of understanding, it's already established in society. You have teachers, you have administrators, you have merchants, and you have workers. But the problem is, it says in the end of the 12th canto that the Sudras become the leaders, the executive heads. And when that happens, you have deterioration of society. So naturally, Krishna's social system, and like even some devotees, you know, I had one conversation with one devotee, and he was saying, oh, it's not practical, it's established Varnashram Dharma. Prabhupada said Varnashram Dharma is not for devotees, it's for the common man. But nonetheless, even without us establishing it, it's already there. It's just a demonic form of Varnashram Dharma. So we have to establish it, and we do it through books and farms. This is revolutionary. By going out and giving books and then establishing farm projects, then, you know, we can actually facilitate, you know, Krishna consciousness. As long as we're not trying to establish Varnashram Dharma, then you see, we're just some other religion nowadays. You know, what makes us different from the Christians, the Muslims, or the Jews? What makes us different? We have a temple, they have a temple. We give out books, they give out books. What's the difference? The difference is our philosophy helps us with this itch sensation. No other philosophy helps with that. This is the only philosophy out that actually helps us curb this sex desire. That's one. And two, it fulfills the needs of the soul. That's what makes us different. But if we don't give out the books, people understand that too. If we don't have a place where people can get away from this demonic education, then we're no different. We're no different than these demons, actually. So we have to establish Varnashram Dharma projects. This is what it means to be revolutionary. It was in the Harishari Prabhu's Translator Diaries, one sannyasi. He told Prabhupada, I just want to just chant 100 rounds, 108, 300 rounds, something like that. And I think he was in Mayapur. And then Prabhupada actually criticized him. He said, actually, this isn't what Krishna consciousness means. Krishna, it's better you chant your 60 rounds and go out and preach than just sitting down and chanting all your rounds. Granted, you should chant rounds, but, we shouldn't be satisfied with our own liberation. Like Prahlad Maharaj says, we should be, we're not satisfied with our own liberation. We're satisfied giving it to others. And we do that by establishing farm communities. So we need to develop a sense of urgency, actually. This is urgent. Krishna is calling, Prabhupada is calling, our Guru is calling us to act. What is the hesitation? Why are we afraid to present Krishna consciousness in its purest form? We have to be urgent. And actually, one of these verses, the legs of the gigantic, this is verse 22, the legs of the gigantic form separately became manifest, and the demigod named Vishnu, not the person God, had entered with partial movement. This helps the living entity move to his destination. What is our destination? Is our destination to be in this material world? This material world is a place of darkness. It's dark. Literally, even like we see yesterday, when the sun's not out, it's just dark. It's bleak. It's a dark place. But the spiritual world is not like that. Natad Basyate Suryo, Nasasanko, Na Pavaka, Yadgadfa Na Nivartante, Tadama Parmamama. The spiritual world is full of light. It's self-effulgent. There's no need of a sun or moon. It's there. There's a sun and moon there, but it's no need for it to light up the world. And actually, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they came to give us this light of the spiritual world. And how they did do it? They did it through the holy name. This name is powerful. This is the light that shines out all darkness. The light of the holy name of the Lord. There's one devotee in Palaka Prabhu in D.C. He always say, I think Prabhupada may have said it, but, we'll be chanting Harinam on the street on Saturday, and people will be covering their ears. And Palaka say, they try to cover their ears, but it's already entered, There's no stopping this. There's no stopping this transcendental sound. This sound is very powerful. Even you can try to cover your ears, you can try to close your eyes, but it already revolutionized. You already changed your consciousness just by hearing it once. So we have to develop a sense of urgency to go to this destination. This helps living entity move to its destination. And we should always have that ultimate destination in mind. It's not that we want to go there to escape our material anxieties. This is actually wanting to go back to Godhead just so you can not suffer is actually a materialistic idea. We're not going there just so we can escape suffering. We're going there so we can serve Krishna. The highest concept of understanding actually is whether you're here, you're in hell, you just want to serve Krishna. We should want to go there. But wanting to go there for our own gratification, this is a materialistic concept, actually. And it's easy. When you first come into Christian consciousness, of course you're going to have that. You're going to want to, this is a bliss. I want to get rid of suffering, but I want to get rid of anxiety. Actually, the highest form of bliss is to be in anxiety. How can they understand this, though? We actually want to be in anxiety. We're not trying to get rid of anxiety. We want to be in anxiety. We want to be anxious to serve Krishna. This is the highest mode of worship, actually, to be anxious to serve Krishna. And we should keep the destination in mind. Okay? And the problem is, as we progress towards our Krishna consciousness, we have these enemies. We have these enemies that are of the mind that are holding us back from attaining that ultimate destination. You have lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and intoxication. So these 6 enemies, we always have to be cognizant of them. Guru Maharaj gives a lecture. His Holiness Bhakti Vikasa Swami Maharaj gives a lecture. Envy is bad, something like that, I think. And he makes a point that with these 6 enemies, You can employ each of them. So Yukta Vairoga, you can employ all these enemies except for envy. So lust. Lust doesn't necessarily mean, well, it all boils down to sex desire, but it can also just mean having material desires. Okay, but you can employ that, like I said, instead of having material desires, having desires to serve Krishna and your guru. Okay, you have illusion, or we strive to actually be illusioned by Yoga Maya. We want to be illusioned to understanding that Krishna is our friend, our parent, our lover. This is actually a proper mode of illusion. Actually, not being illusioned by material desires. What else? Greed. We should be greedy. Like I said, we should be greedy to serve Krishna. We should be greedy to serve the Vaishnavas. We should be greedy to read Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's books. Okay? Intoxication. We should taste the nectar of Harikatha. We should be intoxicated by this nectar. This Amrita, this bliss. We should want to be intoxicated, not through drugs or alcohol, but through the bliss of Krishna consciousness. But envy, you can't employ that in Krishna. You can't, there's no way, because envy is jealousy. You cannot employ envy. So with the 6 enemies of the mind, this envy, you can't employ that. Okay, the best means is to recognize it. You have to recognize when you're becoming jealous or envious of others, because it's very detrimental to your Krishna consciousness, and it impedes your progress to the ultimate destination. Actually, this world is full of those who are envied, and those who are envious. That's all this world consists of. The son is envious of the father is envious of the son. Everybody's envious of each other. Family members, society, everybody is all based off this envy. So we have to be conscious of that. And, although we move into that destination, as this, this just says that in the translation, the problem is when we first come to Krishna consciousness, we have this hope. Like, yes, I found the topmost thing. I have this topmost thing. I can conquer my mind. I can conquer illusion. Everything is new. Like, wow, Prashadam, Kirtan. Like, it's very exciting in the beginning, And you practice for some years, and it becomes like, kind of just mechanical. You lose that sense of like excitement, and you can get disappointed. You can come in this cycle of hope and disappointment. You're hopeful, and then you're disappointed because, I haven't conquered my mind, or, this devotee is treating me some type of way, or, you see your leaders, I'm disappointed in how things are going. And this disappointment is actually, it's a sense of actually illusion. As long as we're disappointed, actually, that's Maya's trick on us. And actually, it's funny, disappointment comes right when we start feeling we're comfortable in Krishna consciousness. Once we feel like we're comfortable, like, yes, things are going good, I'm chanting good rounds, I have good association, and then next day you just feel disappointed. Why? You should never feel comfortable in Krishna consciousness. The second you become comfortable, you're opening the gates of Maya to you, actually. Krishna consciousness is pricked by thorns. Every day, every step you're susceptible to being tricked by Maya. And this being comfortable is actually another trick of Maya. Thinking, everything's nice. I'm doing my bhajan so nicely. I'm reading so nicely. I'm chanting such slokas. This is a source of illusion, actually. Okay? And you can get trapped in it. Once you start feeling comfortable, you're opening yourself up to be attacked by Maya. So we should never feel too comfortable in Krishna consciousness. We should also always strive to be better. So, when a lot of times devotees leave the movement because they feel disappointed. But it's funny because this is a verse. Can you go to 159? It's a very famous verse. No, I'm sorry, 1519. Yeah, go down. Yeah, 1519. Yes, so, my dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruits of workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished a taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. What does this mean? In the purport, Prabhupada says that a devotee does not suffer the reactions of a karma like a karmi does. You can go down a little bit. I think it's somewhere. Yeah, okay. Where's it? Even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi suffers as a result of his own fruits and reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by the chastisement directed by the Lord himself. So what does that mean? What does that mean? These series of verses, they delineate how the demigods are controlling the different manifestations of the material world. But when the devotee starts practicing Krishna consciousness, Krishna personally takes control over his activities. He personally takes charge of it. So a devotee doesn't suffer like a regular karmi does. When reverses happen in Krishna consciousness, we should see that actually as Krishna, actually. It's not, of course, illusory energy might be at play, but it's not due to our past misdeeds. No, it's not. We're not functioning under the role of karma. We're functioning directly under Krishna. So when reverses happen, see it as Krishna's mercy, actually. That distinguishes a neophyte from a second-class devotee when they can discriminate. They can discriminate between when they're being chastised directly by the Lord or not. So we should always understand, especially those who are initiated, we are completely conducted by Krishna's will, actually. Everything we do, every activity we were doing, is for Krishna's pleasure, and he's recognizing that. So when reverses are happening, it's Krishna purifying us. Prabhupada is a purport. I mean, there's a chapter in the Lilamrita, struggling alone. Prabhupada is a pure devotee. He spent more than a year by himself, struggling alone. It was cold, it was bleak, it was dark. Prabhupada, even this is a pure devotee. He came down to deliver Krishna consciousness to fallen souls. He's more merciful than Lord Chaitanya because he came to the Western world. And even he had this sense of disappointment. Even Prabhupada. I mean, of course, it's Leela, but the point I'm making is even he directly, when he was in New York by himself, people weren't coming. Krishna was personally taking care of Prabhupada. And he's showing the example that when you struggle for Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate. When you struggle for Krishna, he will reciprocate. If you read that chapter, it's very inspiring how Prabhupada spent so much time by himself. He couldn't eat. He was staying at Mishra, Dr. Mishra, right? Yeah. And he couldn't even give class. He had to sit there listening to Mayavad. Although Prabhupada had this, this strong sense to fight, he couldn't even fight properly because he had no place to stay. That was just his situation. He had to succumb to that. But he always had a desire to spread Krishna consciousness. He never gave up. He would go to the port and ask for a ticket, but he never went. He would get disappointed, but he never went. He stayed fixed on the path. So even though it might seem like, why are things not coming out the way I want? I just think of that anecdote with Prabhupada. It's like, if Prabhupada would have went back to India, would we be here? Probably not, no. But he stuck it out. He stuck it out. So we should also stick it out, despite any reverses, because these reverses are actually, it's Krishna's mercy. Any reverse that happens is Krishna's mercy. And even when you do, the thing is, in the Nectar of Instruction, actually, it says that those who begin the path of Krishna consciousness, they're forcibly dragged to success. Krishna will personally ensure that you will be successful in Krishna consciousness once you begin. It might take a couple of lifetimes, but once you begin, you will forcibly dragged to success. Isn't this amazing? The thing is, when we first come to Krishna consciousness, it's amazing and dandy, but then we kind of become content. It's just bhakti yoga, just some chanting, just some food. But no, there's no other process where anything you do is for your eternal benefit. Everything, all activities in the material world is subject to destruction, but Krishna consciousness it's a food of the soul. It's a food of the soul when you have to get nourished. We nourish it by associating with devotees, chanting Hare Krishna, and taking Krishna Prasadam. And we should be excited for this. It shouldn't be artificial, though. We should be excited that we get an opportunity to not only revolutionize ourselves, but to revolutionize others. This movement is a Krishna conscious revolution. It's not that we are only considering our own liberation. We have to consider others. We have to, but we do it first by saving ourselves. Once we save ourselves, we can save others, and we have to be excited about this. When we can become excited about this, that destination becomes more and more clear to us. It becomes more attainable. And even like I said, even if we fall away from the path, the Guru never forgets you. He will never forget. There's a pastime in the Lilamrita with Hayagriva and Prabhupada where Hayagriva, he left for some time and then he came back. And then Prabhupada saw him. They both started crying. And Prabhupada said, all these years, I always thought about you. Hagriva said, same thing. I always thought about you all this time, you know? Even after trying to fall away from Krishna consciousness, you can never forget that ecstasy. That ecstasy, you can only help remember it again and again. I can use my own example. I'm a rascal. The fact that I'm even up here is Krishna's mercy. My Guru Maharaj's mercy. But I remember I was in law school, and I was just by myself. I was trying to practice, but I had no association. I remember vividly, I had one example. I had it was like a small book, and I was reading it, and I was like, you know what? I'm done with Krishna consciousness. I literally put all my books in the shelf. I put my bead bag up. I said, you know what? I'm tired of this. This is way harder than being a materialist. I'm going back to material life. So I tried it. Yeah, I'm honest. I was like, I'm done with Krishna consciousness. And that was the most suffering period of my life. I would try to go to parties. I would suffer so much. I would try to associate with the opposite sex. I would suffer so much. I couldn't not enjoy it. I was so confused. Like, why can I not enjoy? It didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. And I came across that verse. I can't remember the ecstasy again and again. I just realized, well, Krishna, he's not letting me go. He didn't let me go. My Guru Maharaj didn't let me go. I didn't expect actually to even take Krishna consciousness seriously. I just expected to use it just so I can be a better materialist, honestly. But the process of Krishna consciousness is very powerful. That just by surrendering to your guru, he'll purify any anarthas within you. But like I said, even the fact that I'm up here is just a testimony that the process works. I wasn't expecting to be here, but Krishna had some plan for me. So like I said, we have to become revolutionaries. We have to give this process to others. And if you go to the last verse, 25, it talks about this false ego. So it's interesting. It says that thereafter, materialistic ego, the giant can form separately, manifests in self, and by which the living entity transacts his objective actions. And the last sentence of the purport says that egotistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last snare of illusory energy, which controls the entire material world. So this false ego is actually controlling the whole material. Like, we're all bound. This false ego bounds us to the bandage of the material existence, actually. Okay? The body is dead matter. Dead matter cannot enjoy. The soul is pure. The soul can't enjoy matter. So what is enjoying? The body's not actually enjoying. The soul's not actually enjoying. What's enjoying? It's described in Uddhava Gita. It's actually the false ego that's enjoying. Because the false ego is bewildering us to identify to our soul with the body. So you're not you who you are, the spirit soul. You're not actually enjoying. It's your false ego that's enjoying, actually. And this false ego is bounding us to this banyan tree of the material existence. Like I said, we should see the world as Krishna sees it. And this false ego is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. It's lust. Lust is a product of a false ego. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada quotes this from the Mahabharata. He says there's 5 kinds of ignorance. 1, accepting the body to be the self. 2, making material sense gratification one standard of enjoyment. 3, being anxious due to material identification. 4, lamenting. And 5, thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. So this false ego causes us to actually be ignorant and causes us to be bewildered by material identification. But like I said, asanga shashina jatena chitva. We have by the weapon of detachment, we can curb this false ego. Weapon of detachment and knowledge. This false ego is very subtle. It's very hard to overcome. We all struggle with it. Nonetheless, if we don't identify it at its root, at its source, then we'll all be bewildered by it. Like I said, it causes us to identify with illusion, and it causes us to commit. Actually, those 6 enemies of the mind, they're coming from false ego: lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, intoxication, all coming from the false ego. So once we start employing, all activities towards Krishna consciousness, it's a gradual process. Just how I think Guru Maharaj makes an example of, if you're washing a plate, naturally your hand also gets clean. So if you're trying to wash your heart by chanting Hare Krishna, naturally the idea of identifying the self with the body also gets cleansed out. So we should be conscious of the fact of our supreme position, that there's no modern education teaching this false ego. We're the only, in all of the whole world, we're the only institution that is describing what this false ego is. Is our duty to become revolutionaries? Is our duty to give it to others? Actually, I don't know if I'll be able to, hopefully I can make Vyasa Puja tomorrow at work, but it's something I wrote in my Vyasa Puja. When I had my first conversation with Guru Maharaj, I asked him, because I was mental about whether I want to be brahmachari or not. I asked him, Guru Maharaj, does this movement need more brahmacharis or does it need more lawyers? And very interestingly, he responded, this movement needs more revolutionaries. That has stuck with me through my whole Krishna consciousness. Whether you're brahmachari, grihasa, vanaprastha, sannyasi, be a revolutionary by first revolutionizing your own mind. Okay, understand this supreme jewel we have. It's a gem. It's a gem. And our predecessor acharyas, they want us to give this gem to others. We have to endeavor for it. We have to endeavor for it. And we have to understand our position, how small we are. So I will stop my class here, and I'll open up for any questions, comments, chastisement.
Technical point, it's not really that technical, I guess. You're saying that we should see the world as Krishna sees it. That's...
No, it's it's a verse.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a verse. I pulled it up. It's 4:29:69. You can pull it up. I'll just cite in the verse. 4:29:69.
You might want to read the purport to that.
Yeah, so I can read the purport. It says
it is like clarification, because that can be taken in many ways.
Yeah, of course. I'll clarify it more. So it says Krishna consciousness means constantly associating with the supreme. Go up. A supreme person God in such a mental state that the devotee can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the supreme person Godhead does.
Uh-huh.
So, and you go down to the purport, it does explain it more. Pretty much it's just saying that, we have to understand what the Supreme Lord wants from us. And
so that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. And I was saying that in the whole context of this universal, because these series of verses just talks about the demigods and stuff. I was saying when we start to see how we're being controlled by the demigods, that's how Krishna is seeing it as well. Mm-hmm. That was the point I was making.
Okay. Yeah, that's clarifying. No, 8:30 it goes to 9 o'clock.
Sunday.
Yeah, there's no Sankirtan happening. There it is.
So you said that this is the only practice that can relieve the itch, but sometimes you'll see Christians say that Jesus cured my lust, and before that I was whatever, living like everyone else, and then when I came to Jesus, he saved me from that. So what do you respond to that?
Yeah. So actually it's funny because my grandmother she had a problem smoking cigarettes, and she said one day I just put my cigarettes on the table. I prayed to Jesus to help me stop smoking, and she never smoked again. Okay, so the fundamental issue is that this itching problem, you might solve one thing, like not be able to smoke cigarettes, or you might be so lusty, but lust isn't necessary, or this itching desire, it manifests in different ways, not just illicit sex. It also manifests itself in wanting to be great, wanting to have material accolades and prestige. So this itching problem is gross and it's also subtle. So the Christians, they might solve the gross platform of it, but until you recognize that you're a part and parcel of Krishna, that subtle itch is still going to be there. So And I mean, even Vandanam, I even asked Vishnu Chitraprabhu about this, how, the Christians might pray, please help me. In one sense, it's a level of, we have it, Vandanam is a part of devotional service. It's not pure, but it is one of the methods of devotional service. So when you're praying to God, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jew, but if you do it purely, then yeah, you can relieve that gross itch. That subtle itch, it's like pervasive. It's still going to be there. So that's my understanding as far as why our philosophy is still supreme, because they don't, even if you might solve one problem, but then now you're eating meat. So you haven't really solved the itching problem, because you're still trying to gratify your senses. You're still hankering for material desires.
You were saying that the body can't enjoy because it's made of matter, but through science we can understand that there's some neurons and things that fire in the brain and release more dopamine when people do different activities, like they see a nice movie or have like a date, they go on a date, or they eat something they like, things like this. The brain fires more dopamine, and this chemical gives some pleasure in the body. So can't the body enjoy?
That's a good point. So the body is only moving because the soul is there. Even you see these dopamine, you see all this stuff functioning. It's only there because the soul is present. The body can't release dopamine if the soul is not there. Can it? I don't think it can. So as long as the soul is there, you have different interactions within the body and all these other things. But the main point is, once you start identifying the soul with the body, then yes, all these different things happen, these chemicals, whatever. But science has a way of, complicating something that's more simple than it has to be. Okay, you talk about dopamine, all this. The main point is, when you try to enjoy material nature, then Maya will allow you to do that through the agency of your false ego. So, yeah, all these chemical interactions, it's just a complex way of saying that the soul has identified with the body, and now the body is the soul has identified with the body, and because of that, it wants to enjoy material nature. So the body does certain interactions so we can enjoy material nature.
One thing is that even scientifically, there's no evidence, there's no connection between our experience of enjoy. There's a correlation, but there's not there's no basically, scientists don't know how dopamine translates into us feeling. They don't. Sorry, I'm
I see what you're saying. That's a good point.
They don't know how basically chemicals in the brain translate into feelings. There's a rough correlation that they have observed, but exactly how why when you listen to music it causes you to experience all kinds of feelings. Okay, you could say it's dopamine, but how that dopamine translates into feelings of catharsis and things like that, they have no idea. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, consciousness. I think John Krishna Prabhu was talking about that. The hard problem of consciousness, why certain things cause us to have certain feelings in our consciousness. Science can't prove these things. They can give some evidence, but they don't understand where does dopamine even come from? Where does it come from? It just comes from atoms. So that's a good point, though. That's a good point. Anybody else? Mati?
Could you just expand upon how envy can't be used in Krishna consciousness, while simultaneously how to understand when Prabhupada gives references to the gopis having transcendental envy, or even encouraging book distribution and causing competition and calling it transcendental envy?
Well, I don't remember Prabhupada saying the gopis had turned into an envy.
I can read it, Prabhu.
I remember they said competition.
It's right here. It says no material envy. This is Prabhupada. It's a letter, December 22nd, 1971, Bombay, and he says no, but material envy is not like that. Even the gopis, they were envious of one another in a transcendental sense.
So in that lecture by Guru Maharaj, the point he was making is that jealousy causes us to hanker after things that are not worthy of hankering for. So Prabhupada also says that when we do book distribution, we should have competition, but we shouldn't do it for our own self-aggrandizement or just try to put others down. We should do it for the purpose of serving Krishna. So even the gopis, even that competition is mainly meant for serving Krishna. But from that understanding for that lecture that Guru Maharaj was saying, he was mainly saying that the reason why this jealousy or envy cannot be used is because it causes us to want to have things that are not worthy of having. I can go back and listen to the lecture, but my main understanding is that jealousy just causes you to want to be in the material world more. And there's another thing, Prabhupada uses the word envy. Is actually, the way he uses it is an archaic meaning, actually. I think Mishman can explain this better, because like you have envy, but then you also have like. Right, exactly. He would use it in a way that's like not actually common. But when Guru Maharaj used it, he was talking about as far as jealousy. So like, as far as the gopis and they're being envious, the way he used it was probably saying, you know, that they wanted to serve Krishna. They desired to serve Krishna, and they saw the gopis were trying to serve Krishna, so they also desired that. But the way Guru Maharaj uses envy in this lecture, he uses it as translates to jealousy. So I think this is more sort of like a word syntax type of thing, because yeah, like I said, Prabhupada used the word envy, he just used it differently than how Guru Maharaj used it. I mean, the principle is the same though. I don't think Prabhupada ever said that we should be jealous of other devotees when they're doing books. I don't remember Prabhupada ever saying that. Envy is another thing. Envy, like I said, Prabhupada used envy differently. So.
Hare Krishna. So in competition, you have an equal opportunity to fight, you know. Means in envy also, like envy goes to the stage where somebody is doing better than you, but you are not able to digest that, you know. So competition and envy differ actually. So because if I am competing with him, you know, I have an opportunity to compete, and he also has an opportunity, and he is doing better, then I get envious that, oh, why he is doing better than me. So that means I am trying to be the lord of the things.
Right.
So these things are different. Envy, I don't think so. Like it can't be used in devotional service.
Right.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It can't be. Like I said, as far as that quote that Prabhupada is saying, I just think he used that word in a different context. I don't think he was saying we should be jealous like the gopis. I think he was saying that, you know, they had a level of wanting to serve Krishna, and they saw other people serve Krishna. They wanted to serve Krishna better because of that. So to answer your question, yeah.
A more precise word might be that there's no malice.
Malice. Okay. Yeah, that's a good, yeah. Malice, I guess, undertones jealousy. Yeah. But like I said, the way Guru Maharaj used in that lecture, he just used it as jealousy, which malice underlines jealousy. So, yeah, of course.
So transcendental competition is, I see this like with the gopis or with, you know, pure book distributors or something. I see this devotee as serving Krishna better or very nicely. So I want to also serve Krishna that nicely or even better. But then the material, you could say competition or envy is, okay, let me slash his tires.
Yeah, exactly.
So they get out there later.
Right. That's a good point. How like, at the end of the day, you're not mad. If somebody does more books than you, if you're upset because somebody did more books than you, then that's mundane jealousy. But if you're going out like, oh, I want to do more books, and then somebody ends up doing better than you, and you're happy, you're just like, okay, we both went out and did books, and this is a proper means of competition. Not seeing that somebody else is being adversely affected by the competition. And that's the thing, the nature of the material world is that the higher you go, even everybody's jealous of everybody else. Even if you go up, people are jealous of those under them. They don't want them to come up. That's just the nature of material life. Even if you're up, you want to keep others down. If you're down, you want to come up and you're envious of people who are up. That's just the nature of material life. But spiritual life's not like that. You know, whether you're up or down, you're satisfied in your position. You're just hankering to serve Krishna more. So, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vanchika Patu. Jai Kripa Sinubhaya Vachapati Dana.